Welcome everyone to the Tulsa.NET user group. Tonight, Jeff C Sharp Fritz, going to talk to us about .NET Aspire and working with Playwright. Now, Playwright is new as in a few years, but I also think, obviously .NET Aspire is new for a little bit. So you're going to combine some use of .NET Aspire as well as some UI testing on this. So Jeff, if you would, go ahead and give us a little bit about you and take it from here.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm a Virgo. I like long walks on the beach. No, so I'm a speaker. I've been around for a while. I work on the .NET team, helping to organize events and put together training material. I work with the .NET Aspire team, getting them feedback and working on how we can evolve some of the tools that are part of this really cool orchestration and development framework that really makes your development easier working locally. So, yeah, I've been doing this for what, 12, 13 years now, and it feels like only yesterday that this started. But always a treat. Happy to meet with user groups and talk about all the things here. Sean's right. I live stream. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube doing this live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I will be keeping an eye on the chat feed. So if there are questions that you have, you want to ask, you want me to go a little bit deeper on something, I will be keeping an eye on things over there, and we'll be keeping up and responding to you. See that? And Surly Dev is already picking on that it's Dem 508. Yeah, I'm reusing my slide deck from Build. That's right. So here's the thing, right? Here's the deal, and right, I'll give you a little behind the scenes here. So I was all nervous. I went on stage at Build. It was the first session that I'd ever delivered at Microsoft Build, and it's a little 15-minute demo session. So it's literally get in, get out. You're on a little stage that's in the corner of the room, and like, okay, we're gonna do this. And I was nervous. I got on stage, took some deep breaths, got focused, and I nailed it. Like I came off the stage, it was like, yes, right? Everything worked well, and the video was corrupt. They lost the video, and they're like, we don't know what to do. Can you re-record this? I'm like, sure. So I got to re-record it, and that video, where I covered it in just 15 minutes, is available, and it's out there on the Microsoft Developer YouTube. We're going to go deeper on this topic than just those 15 minutes where I had to hand wave and say, look, it works. We're actually going to do this. We're actually going to show you how these pieces fit together, because these two tools, while they're not central to how we write code as developers, they're really core pieces that are going to help you maintain and grow your applications in a standard way going forward that I think your whole team is really going to appreciate. So let me dive in here. I'm going to do things the old PowerPoint way with the slides down the side so I can see it being rendered here on my desktop. So of course I got to talk about what .NET Aspire is first. So .NET Aspire, we call it a cloud-ready stack for building observable, production-ready, distributed applications. This is that tool set, that framework that our team is very excited about, because it makes some of those standard things that you want to build and do with your applications drop dead simple and baked in from the start. You want logging, it's already there and hooked up to all the things you probably want to write log messages about. You want metrics and performance reporting, it's already baked in there, and it's got a great dashboard that's going to show you how those various tools and things that you're working with are performing automatically. No additional code, and you're going to get a pretty good set of base measurements being done inside your application. Service discovery, you've got a bunch of things that are running inside of your application. You've got a database out there, a website. Well, how do we connect them together? I don't want to have to copy around port numbers and passwords and user IDs. It'll automatically wire that up for you. And we're going to get you set up for deployment so that when it comes time to push out to, I don't know, a nice cloud service out there, maybe a nice fluffy blue cloud, you'll be able to deploy real easy out to those locations. So that's what Aspire is. And if you've been paying attention to the .NET presentations and things that our groups have been doing for about the past year and a half, we've been very excited about working on and promoting this product. But the other side of the coin here, where we're going to bring in and get a little bit more interesting, is with Playwright. Playwright is a test framework that you can find. It's available out there. It's open source. It's at playwright.dev. All right. This is a test framework that is cross browser and cross platform that will allow you to start up and orchestrate a web browser. So whether it's one of the Chromium browsers, that's Chrome or Edge, you can boot up and run Firefox, you can run WebKit, and you can run these tools in Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. It runs fast, it runs reliably to allow you to inspect and run things inside the browser. So you can go and navigate to pages, click buttons, fill out forms, click links, and navigate and inspect what's being presented on that screen. Very flexible and powerful API that you can use not just with C# and .NET code, but it's also got APIs available for Java and Python and JavaScript. So it's also got TypeScript as well. Really flexible tool set here that you can work with. Comprehensive debugging and reporting. I'm going to show you how it generates reports for you and detailed trace logs as it's going through and working with and testing your applications. Scott mentioning that one of his favorite parts of .NET Aspire is the service defaults project. Yes. So in .NET Aspire, when you start up a .NET Aspire project, application system, we create a little project called service defaults for you. And as Scott points out there, it lets you turn on and off some of those best practices. And you can edit it to have those best practices as a standard across your entire application system. Or you can go and customize things appropriately on the different projects that you're working with and extend it, customize it as needed for this website, for that API service. It's really, really cool to pull together. Is Selenium done for? Asks Daniel. I'm so behind the times on UI testing. Selenium is nice. It's still out there. There are folks that are still investing in it. What we find with Playwright is it gives you a really nice cross-platform tool set. I mentioned there's a bunch of different programming language APIs that you can use to build up and test your applications with. So if we have Playwright available that can orchestrate and run our browser, and we have, right, so Playwright helps us do that end-to-end testing. Like start up my browser, go to my website, and interact with it, try to do things with it. And I've got .NET Aspire there that will allow me to start up my entire application system, not just the website, but the website, the database, maybe some API endpoints, what have you. You can then really emulate what your production system looks like with Aspire and then end-to-end test it with Playwright. And to me, that's the peanut butter and jelly of technology. Those are the two pieces that I want to have come together and allow me to ensure that my application runs well. And we were talking a little bit about AI earlier. Oh, I've got a demo to show you that too. So we have those different types of tests. I mentioned end-to-end testing. It's the third one here on the list. But most of us are familiar, when Sean talked a little bit there before we got started, talked about unit testing. We're all familiar with writing NUnit, XUnit, MS tests, and they're fast execution. They run just at the low level in your code. It's nice, but you have to really write your code in a way that is open for unit testing. There's integration tests that you can run that will verify interactions between various modules, maybe various components in your application system, right? Is this website able to communicate out to that API properly? Does the API support the endpoints, the nomenclature that the website is looking for? And do those assurances, get that not just assurance, but that insurance that your application and your API are behaving properly as you advance and grow your application system. And I mentioned there the end-to-end testing that Playwright gives us so that our full application workflow, we know, is behaving the way that we want it to, right? We can mimic real-world interactions. That's really cool, right? Not just being able to orchestrate the browser, but being able to take that feedback from our customers, from the non-tech folks, from my non-technical mother and mother-in-law when they say, "Hey, this isn't working right on this website," and be able to translate that into here's what they actually did. Playwright has tools that are going to help you get there, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit with a little bit of help from our friend Copilot. Let me catch up here on chat. Jeremy loves the Aspire dashboard. It is amazing. Well, I'm going to take a look at that in just a minute. Scott points out Copilot now connects to the Aspire dashboard. Yes. So if you have errors that surface on the .NET Aspire dashboard, you can click into them and ask it, what happened here? Can you help me out? Really, really cool to have that extra assistance as you're developing and building integrations there. Michael asks, are integration tests all mean that the client request and server response have the correct body signatures, for lack of a better term? Yeah, I would describe it like that. Yeah, that the connection, the nomenclature that's being used to pass data back and forth. You might call it a protocol that's being used to discuss back and forth is behaving and communicating properly. Yep. All right. That's enough of slides. If you've seen my presentations before, you know I hate slides. So let's get into code. Let's dive right in. I have some sample code available here, and that looks really bad, but we're not going to do that just yet. This is the National Weather Service sample that I've been building and working with for a little bit here. Some of you may have seen this, and you might be sick of seeing it at this point, but I think this is a nice little sample that we've built out, we've extended. Our friend John Galloway has built some really cool modules onto this to teach and show some of the great stuff that you can do with .NET Aspire. So I'm just going to .NET Watch inside of our app host project, right? Hey, there we go. Hey, John, didn't see you there. So yes, the National Weather Service is still in business because all of these weather reports are actually automated. So that's nice. Best of all, it works on ARM64. ARM. Here we go. Everything started up, and here comes the Aspire dashboard. Fantastic. So the Aspire dashboard gives us that insight, right, across our application system. In this case, this application system has a website called My Weather Hub that connects out to an API called API. It's like Sean said, naming things is hard. And the API knows how to connect out to the National Weather Service. So this way, my weather website doesn't care if it's connecting to the National Weather Service or it's connecting to some other weather service in some other country, some other open source location. I'm connecting and using the same API to interact with this API service. Now, I also put in here a Redis cache, right? A Redis cache is going to help me to cache some of those results because we know that the weather service, by their documentation, only updates their data but once every 15 minutes. If you're sitting there hitting refresh on the National Weather Service expecting something every 5 seconds, you're having a bad time. And I've got some grass you can watch grow or paint that you can watch dry. So, and then I've also got this service called Cache Insight running that allows me to connect in and inspect what's going on in the Redis database. Finally, there's a database here called Postgres that we're running with a database inside of it called WeatherDB, so we can save our favorites. What are your favorite locations? So we can bring them up and have only those ones display. We're not going to work with that part of the service as part of this set of demos and this discussion, but we're going to work between the Weather Hub and the API and a little bit in the cache and see how those pieces all fit together. So with all that down, let me click into the website. Oh, I almost forgot one of the cool parts here. So I mentioned, right, we've got these six services all running here. I can click into the graph and it'll show me, here's how all the pieces fit together in this cool little bubble diagram. And when it comes time to go to the boss and the boss says, well, what do we all have deployed into our production space? You can just click into this graph area in the Aspire dashboard, take a screenshot, and here's a list of the services that are running in production. Nice. So easy to see the relationships between the various services. Here's my weather site. It connects to the API. The API uses the cache. And this also connects out to the Postgres database where I have a little database called WeatherDB. Nice. So I clicked in and started the website, and this is kind of a boring website to get things started. It's in developer black and white here. It's so wonderful, and I can search for a location here. I'm going to search for my favorite town where I live. I'm going to search for Philadelphia, and I can click that, and it's going to make that request out to the National Weather Service and show me here's the forecast for the next few days, and not bad. Lows in the upper 70s tonight. Tomorrow we're going to be in the upper 90s. Ugh, ugh. But that's a live weather report, right? This just came in. So, right, let's close that down. And if let's try our friends here in Tulsa, and I'll click in there, and here's our weather forecast for Tulsa. They're not as descriptive on this weather forecast. Highs in the lower 90s for you tomorrow, south winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Wednesday night, mostly clear, lows in the lower 70s, south winds 5 to 10. Thursday, highs in the lower 90s. Hey, not bad. All right, that's not bad. Let me catch up on chat real quick. The Surly Weather Service where the outlook is always gnarly. Maybe. You love that? Big fan of visualization tools? Yeah, Torin. If I got some more for you coming up. Brian says, a little bit off topic, wondering if I could describe how someone would use Aspire in a multi-repository system. So, yeah, Jeremy, you're down the right path here. So the question that's being asked when you look at how this application, how this is all orchestrated here, all of those components that you see are sitting here inside of one folder with child folders for each of these projects. So when you think about a multi-repository system, the question that I would have to you is, well, how do you test applications that are in a multi-repository system? If you're building a website that connects to microservice A and microservice B, and those two are sitting in two other repositories somewhere, they're sitting in GitHub repository A, GitHub repository B. Well, how do you test and work with the output of those repositories? Do you download and start them in a Docker container? Do you download the source code for those and put them next to yours and start all of them together so that they can connect to each other? You're doing something to stitch them together locally. And that stitching together that you're doing, downloading and putting them all in folders next to each other, you're effectively recreating what I have here in the mono repo solution. If you have container images out there, you can start things up as container images inside of your app host. So where I have, right, let me just zoom in a smidge there, where we're defining and specifying, here's the topology of our application system, where I'm saying I want to have a Redis service, and I'm going to name that cache. And I'm going to add my API project and call it API. I can also add a container for some other location, for some other thing, container app, and I can say, no, builder.add, add container, and I can specify then the name and the name of the image that you want to install from. I can also then give it all kinds of, no, not those. Give it information about what's the container registry you want to load from. Are there authentication credentials that I need to access that registry? What tag would you like to load that information about that container? There you go. String the name of this resource, the name of the image, and the tag. And you could specify the registry then after that, right? So with image registry, and I could specify, here's the string, here's the URL for that registry. So you have a bunch of options about how you want to stitch these together. And if you had projects in other folders, right? I can specify add an executable from another folder. I can specify, well, executable is the .NET-y way to do that. But I can also specify like add an NPM project, and it will start NPM and point to another resource and start and manage that for us. So you have lots of options for how you want to work with that. Michael asks a follow up here. Aspire seems like an observability dashboard. Is it also an admin panel? Yes. So not only do we see, here's a list of the services we have here, we can look in on some structured logging and see exactly how our website was interacted with just that little bit of clicking through and interacting here. I can also click in and see specific traces of what happened when I worked with the website. So I get a distributed trace here that shows here I am on the weather website, and it went to go get forecast for a specific zone, for a specific location, set that data into my cache after it went to get the forecast. These are kind of in the wrong order. And it went out because it didn't have that data. It went out to apiweather.gov to get that data. And I can click into these points, and .NET Aspire will show me a little bit of full details about here's the exact URL that I went to. API Weather Gov Zones Forecast. This was the Philadelphia weather, PAZ071/forecast. Right? I can click that and see exactly that JSON that it went and fetched. And there's that data being presented to me. So I've got a fantastic ability to explore my data, to see what's going on and really drive into things. And of course, I also mentioned we've got some metrics over here so that we can explore and see exactly what's going on in here. I've even got a custom metric that we've set up that shows the request duration, how long it took to actually do those requests. And it will manage and show you how long these requests took to actually communicate with the National Weather Service, because we added this feature. This was something we added into the mix. So it took 144 milliseconds for that request. The first request took 746 milliseconds. The follow-up request that I make now will come back very quickly, right? Because if I go back to spell Tulsa correctly, it's hitting my Redis cache at this point, and we're not going to see it taking very long. It actually, I don't think it shows up on this display at all now. So really great stuff that you can use to explore and understand how your application is working. There you go. Made a request to the API for a specific zone, and it got it out of Redis cache in 3.5 milliseconds. Not bad. Not bad at all. The winds have been merciful today. Oh, man. I'm envious because here in Philadelphia, it's been humid. It was 97 Fahrenheit here today, and with the humidity, it felt like it was 101. So, if all you use is Aspire to launch multiple projects together, it's a big win. Amen. Yes. Scott points out the dashboard works because in service defaults, we turn on open telemetry. Yes. We've got a whole module, and I've actually got a video that's coming out probably next week that shows you how to do open telemetry with this. So what Scott's mentioning is over here, we have this service defaults project that has this one class in it called extensions that sets up these defaults, these smart defaults for how you interact with your projects. And the first thing it does here is it configures open telemetry for your project. Sets up health checks so that you can hook up your application system to something that's going to monitor and report the health of your system, so it knows to start up more containers, to redirect to another region of containers that are out there on the cloud. You can do all of those things with the health checks capabilities. Service discovery allows you to discover where the various features in your system live. You saw I had a Redis cache, I had a database. Service discovery helps those projects identify where to go to connect to them. And we have some resiliency that we build with our HTTP client. So when you request something from that API, if for some reason the API is down, it'll keep trying. It'll keep requesting and getting that data eventually. So really nice stuff. And there's logging and tracing built into all of these things automatically. It's in the box. You don't have to think about it. It just works. So, but that's a little bit of how we get started with .NET Aspire. Let's now talk about Playwright. When we look at Playwright and we interact with how we want to instrument and navigate around our application over here, right? We've got all these things that are running inside of our application. And our users are going to be interacting with that weather website. We may have some folks that want to interact with the API and test that and make sure that it's responding properly, that it's loading things into the cache properly. And you can do those tests. You can wire up and explore and interact with those things really, really nicely. But with Playwright, I can actually navigate here, click around, explore, do some of these searches that I was just doing here, and make sure that I do get data back for those locations. Let me show you what a Playwright test looks like, because what we recognize is there's three types of personas that use Playwright. We're going to have developers that want to write tests that look and feel like code, that describe and explain. You're going to go navigate around my website, and I'm going to give you commands that look and feel like standard C#, JavaScript, Python, what have you. So I'm going to go and say, interact with the Weather Hub website, go to the root of the website, and grab the title of that page and make sure that it's called My Weather Hub. And if I go back over here to the browser, right, you see that the title of the website is My Weather Hub. So this is a easy test for us to look at, and without really thinking too much about it and diving into the APIs, yeah, that makes sense. And it's being built in and managed and runs inside of XUnit, right? XUnit lets us put this attribute up here, this fact attribute, to specify this is a test that we can run from some sort of a test running tool. And we happen to have one here in Visual Studio Code. And I can run, I'm not going to do that one yet. I can run this test web app homepage, and it will start and run and connect to that web page and allow me to verify that things are working properly. Now, I'm going to show you, I have this wired up so that what it will do is it will actually run through these tests. Where is it? Nope, I need to go to the Playwright Manager. I want this to be good. It's already running. So back over here, I'm going to run this in not in headless mode. You're going to get to see the browser as it goes and navigates. So this is a feature that you can turn on with Playwright so that you can watch it actually navigate around. So we're going to see this. You see that the test is starting up over here. And in just a second, our browser will open. There it goes. There's the test running. Come on, open up browser. And then we'll dive into how these couple pieces are glued together. So there's the browser, right? It's running Chromium, and it already shut down. You didn't even see it because our human eyes didn't need to see it. It already analyzed and recognized that the home page is running properly. And it went through and did everything from launching the website to navigating and verifying that it works in 14.4 seconds. And that's even then probably a little bit slow because it's just warming up. Now, that's nice, but I want to do tests like we just saw where I clicked in to look at Tulsa or Philadelphia or some other location. And we can do that with the technology that we have in XUnit, where we have theories and we have data that we pass into our tests. So I wrote a test here called Search for City. And I'm going to give it some text to search for and the location that I actually expect it to identify and find. So I want it to just key in PHILA and make sure it finds Philadelphia. Type in Manhattan and make sure it finds New York, Manhattan. And I even included Fairbanks, Alaska here to make sure that we get a little bit of variety, someplace that's a little bit chill, right? A little bit colder out there. Turns out it's not just colder in Fairbanks, it's daytime. Like, they don't have night right now, right? And that's kind of weird. So once again here, I can write my tests as a developer in ways that make me feel good. I'm first up here, I'm saying we're going to go to the Weather Hub website, go to the root of it, wait to make sure that everything is loaded, that the network is idle, and then we're going to click the column options on the first column, right? That's where the name column was. A search box appears, click into it, and then fill in the text of whatever I told you to search for. So Phila, Spokane, Manhattan, Fairbanks. And then it's going to go click somewhere else outside of it because they don't really have a close button on it. So go click somewhere else so it closes that. It's going to do that search, wait for the search to complete, and make sure that we find that exact location. Once you find that link, click it. And then look for the title on our page. It's going to be an H3 at the bottom, and we can see that inside of the code for the website because I wrote the website. So I know how it works. Over here on home. So the bottom half of the website, here it is. So here's our H3 at the bottom, our weather headline, weather for whatever name and state. So go look for, make sure we see weather for whatever that location is, right? And assert that that's true. Easy for us as developers to understand and write that. So I can go back to my tests, and because I wrote this set of inline data, I can now run it for all of those as one larger test here. So we'll go ahead and let that run, and we'll see the browser open up and do this navigation. And then I'm going to show you how I stitched these couple pieces together. All of the sample code for this is available. I'm going to give you a link to it, and I'm going to show you actually a library that we're working on to make this a little bit easier to work with. There you go. You can see it doing the navigation. And we don't even have to watch what it actually gets to. And it knows it's done. So it ran 14 seconds to just make sure the homepage worked. Well, in 19 seconds, it went through and tested that it could find all of those locations. Nice. Easy, right? This starts to give me assurances that for a couple of common cities in my weather scenario, it works, right? And I can certainly add in more information here for it to search for and test with. And I can grow that. And we're gonna do that in just a minute here with a little bit of help, show it with a little bit of help from Copilot, and show you how we can start extending those tests to non-technical folks. More on that in a second. I want to show you how we glued the pieces here, because Aspire is a big system that starts, as Jeremy was pointing out there, it starts a bunch of containers. My Redis cache, my Postgres database, they're running in Docker containers using Docker Desktop here locally, right? It's all virtualized, starting them up. So when I'm done running .NET Aspire, it shuts those off and puts them to the side. Well, when I run my tests, I need to wait for Aspire to be running before I can hand things off. So that's what I've built and I have here, and you'll be able to see in the source code. I've got a couple of infrastructure pieces. First is what I call the Aspire Manager. This is the piece that is going to, have a good one, Sean. This is the piece that's going to start .NET Aspire. This uses actually our distributed application test builder. You can get this inside of our .NET Aspire test templates. And continuing here, we've got, it'll start up, it'll manage. I tell it to disable the dashboard here when it goes to start this, just because we don't necessarily need to see the dashboard to run things, but there are times that we'll turn that back on for us. We're going to tell it, you're allowed to run things insecure. You can run things on port 80, right? You don't need to run TLS. And go build the app, go start the app, and return it. That await right there means that our application, our Aspire system, is going to completely start up, and only when it's done is it going to return that application system to us so we can work with it and start processing. And here's the initialization and dispose, because we want to make sure that it creates the website and then shuts it down when we're done with this class. The other piece of this, Playwright, I have inside this class that I call the Playwright Manager. The Playwright Manager similarly has an asynchronous lifetime because we want to go and start our browser, right? You see here we're setting up some some of the configuration options available to us with Playwright. And I'm going to go start, in this case, a Chromium browser, a Chrome browser, launch that, wait for it to be done, and hand that back so that we can work with it. When this class is done being used, go ahead and close that browser and dispose of all the things in memory for Playwright. So we've got these two classes that work together nicely, but we need to actually bring them together, get our peanut butter and jelly in the same sandwich here. So I wrote an abstract class here called base Playwright tests, and my Weather Hub tests class inherits from this. So what this class does is it brings those two pieces together so that it will start the Aspire Manager, it'll start Playwright, and hand them off so that they'll work together. Additionally, I have this configure method that makes sure that Aspire is running and that the Playwright browsers are running, and it also grabs the location of the dashboard if we need to look at the dashboard for anything. But the key piece is what I have here. This is where the tests are written inside this interact with page async. So I can specify what's the name of the service on the dashboard that you want to connect to. And I reach into .NET Aspire and find the endpoint for that service. And if I can find that if I can't find that service, throw an error. If I can, that's the URL that we're going to start working with inside Playwright. So I return that, I wait for that resource to be healthy, and I tell Playwright, go create a page that's going to connect to that. Create a browser, right? And connect to and present that page so we can start inspecting what's on that page, how we can navigate, how we can interact with it, and so forth. And when we're done running tests, right? So I have this func, this delegate that you pass in, and it's going to call those tests. When it's done, close down the browser. Pretty cool set of three little classes that make that work together. So let's dive in and think about this now, not just as a programmer, but let's think about this as somebody who's a layperson who isn't technical and wants to just start testing and instrumenting how they want to work with the website. Yeah, any questions? Happy to dive in here. John makes a great point that when you're working with Playwright, having semantic HTML is really going to help you. Not just semantic HTML, but if you have accessible HTML. When you start using those ARIA tags on your HTML, you can use Playwright to identify those various things and navigate and grab those and inspect what it is that's painted on the page. So you might have an ARIA for a role that is, I don't know, that is a navigation button, but it might be a link now, but your designer might want to change it to a button tag in the future. Well, that ARIA tag, if you navigate and use Playwright to grab that element by the ARIA tag, it doesn't matter whether it's a link or it's a button, or if it's some JavaScript attached to a div that it's going to navigate. It'll always grab the same one. Playwright has that capability. John with a good question here. Any gotchas or things that are hard to test with Aspire apps? Yes. So if you want to change the state of your Aspire app, this is something that we need to spend some time figuring out. If you want to change the state of your app, so right now our application, let me restart it here so we can take a look at it again. Go restart. No, not that. There we go. .NET Watch and get it started again. When you want to have your application run with different configurations, different state, and you need to roll out those different configurations, it's tricky to manage those different states of the entire application system. So I might want to preload a series of favorites into my Postgres database that I have here, so that I know that it always has a fixed set of favorites that we're going to load from the database and paint on screen. Well, how do I do that? How do I seed that data while at the same time having other tests that don't have that data? So managing those different states of the application system right now is tricky. We'll get that figured out, but this is something that I think is solvable, and we can get to that in the near future. Jeremy with a question here about, does this work with Windows containers? No, this works strictly with Linux-based containers. It's great stuff that you can use, and quite frankly, if you're building things that are flexible, deployable, it shouldn't matter whether you're working with Linux containers, Windows containers, unless you're building something specific to Windows. But there isn't anything requiring you to use Windows containers, but also at the same time, I don't think it supports Windows containers out of the box. Brian with a comment here, our Playwright tests are all written in JavaScript. Would this also work with Aspire? Would I have to use the add npm app? They will work with Aspire. What you would be doing instead, because you've written them in JavaScript, you can run them from an npx script. In your npx script, you would do a .NET run on the Aspire system, so that runs, and when that finishes and that is completed, then you would run your tests. We've got some configuration that's available it's in the eShop configuration application. You can find that and be able to navigate through and see how we do that over there. But I absolutely want to help folks be able to run this type of configuration with multiple languages. But out of the gate here, we're trying to get .NET working well. And then we'll have a template that we can roll out to other tech stacks. So good question, Brian. And you can do that. Some of the niceties that I've built here just aren't in place yet. Okay. So this is running, and that's nice. It's hanging out there, and it's doing its thing. But I want to be able to hand off to that non-technical person who wants to test and say, well, what about Chicago? I live in Chicago. I want to, test and make sure that it can find Chicago. So what you can do is you can start to write and execute tests using the Playwright MCP, right? So MCP, the Model Context Protocol, it's a way for you to define tools that you add on to the AI prompts that will be able to do other things, to extend the capabilities of what the AI can do. In this case, what we'll be able to do is take a text prompt like this one and have it actually launch browsers and use Playwright to analyze the content inside the browser and give us some feedback. Check it out. Look at this prompt. I want to do some exploratory testing. Launch the app host project and navigate to the Aspire dashboard that's reported in the output with the direction, log into the dashboard. Identify the URL for the My Weather Hub service and open a browser to visit it. This is a weather forecast page. Wait for the grid to finish loading. Click the button with the roll column options in the header of the name column. Wait for the search box. Fill in the search text. Are there entries available for Chicago in the weather app? Stop the app host project, and if you launched a browser, close it when you're done. So I can take this now and bring this into Copilot and actually have it go and do those things. I'm actually going to run this with Claude Sonnet. And where is it? I actually have a play button here that we can, run prompt in new chat. Do that one right there. Bang. And we'll see Copilot start to do the exploration here using Playwright, connecting into that Aspire system. First, let's launch the app host project. And I'll open up the terminal here so you can see what it's doing. And there it is, launching the app host. Wait a moment for the service to start and then check its output. Taking a little bit longer. We're going to wait just a smidge here, and it's going to come back. Now I can see the Aspire dashboard is available. Let me automate the browser interaction using Playwright. So now it's trying to install Playwright. It doesn't know. Yeah, there you go. Run the Playwright MCP. Install the browser. No, it's already running. That's right. Navigate to a URL, and it opened over here. I'll let it run right there, and I'll let it do its thing. I'm going to move things around so you can see it. I can see Weather Hub services running on this location. Let me navigate to it. You can see it already navigated. And now let me click the column options button. So the AI is navigating and figuring out how to work with this based on the text we gave it. I could be a little bit less descriptive about exactly what it should be using, and it will discover and find these things for us. This is great. This is a nice way for us to take some of that customer feedback and turn it into scripts that now we have a test. Now we can turn this into something that allows us to automate and verify every time that this is working the way that I want it to. There it is. It closed the browser and it's got a summary report for me. Launched the app host project, went to Weather Hub, searched for Chicago, found that there are no entries available for Chicago. The task was completed successfully. Terrific. John says, yeah, Claude Sonnet 4 says hello. And Claude, for some reason, isn't great at formatting code. You're right. Particularly YAML code. Claude and YAML go together like oil and water right now. Torin with a follow-up question. How does Playwright handle checks for accessibility or some more subjective concerns? That's a great question. Let's give it a try. Let me take that exact same prompt here. And instead of telling it fill in the search text for Chicago, let's just modify this real quick and just give this a try. Explore inspect the page for accessibility concerns and report your findings. All right. And I'll just run that one more time. And we'll see, right? Playwright's going to launch, go navigate and give us that snapshot of the website. And once it has that snapshot, Copilot's going to interact with that and give us a little bit of a report here. So here it is. We're going to do the exact same thing. Launch, start, and oh, you didn't shut things down properly last time, did you? Did you? Yeah, it's still hanging out there running. Oh, no, that closed properly. .NET run, there it goes. All right. So building, running, and we'll get it to jump through to the website. Come on now. Come on, you know where it is. There we go. Now it sees the dashboard URL, and here it goes. Josh was also not great at formatting YAML, right? Spaces versus tabs. I tell you. No, don't install it. What are you doing? No. Playwright is already installed. Use the MCP you have. Let it go. Who took me off script? Right? Blame Torin. So here we go. Navigating, and we're going to be able to see this side by side. So I didn't have to be this descriptive this time. I could have let it simplified a little bit here. So navigate to the URL, and now it's going to take a snapshot of it. Should take a snapshot. There you go. I can see the grid loaded with city names. Going to click the column options button. Did I not save my prompt? No, I did. So Claude and Gemini are awesome at C#, says Jeremy. Knowing that it can handle .NET 9 is even better. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So taking a snapshot, going to click the column options button with the updated reference. There it goes. Now it found it. Yeah, come on, Copilot. Cheer it on there. Here we go. Now it's giving me some accessibility concerns. So now I get a little bit of a report. I can tell Copilot to write this out to a markdown file. I can tell it to put in, whatever format I want and move that around appropriately. So areas for improvement, great. I could even tell Copilot at this point, go make those fixes. That's pretty cool. So, and now it's going to tell me here's all the tasks that it completed. Nice. Now, I mentioned we can use this to actually create tests. So let's turn your exploration for Chicago into a test that verified that a location sought that doesn't exist is handled properly. Let's make sure we have that error handling. I have tests already in a file called Weather Hub tests. So we'll tell it to go ahead and run this one. And there you go. So it's going to go look at my Weather Hub tests file. There you go. And add a new test to verify that behavior. And we'll see it generate the appropriate code for us. So now we've got two different ways that we can generate code, generate Playwright code to test and interact with our application. And because I already gave it a little bit of a template of what to look for, it actually did a pretty good job here generating that code. I do see, yeah, look, it's searching for non-existent city 123. It's waiting for, it's going to go do its click, and it should come back appropriately. I think that's right. I can go over here and tell it, go ahead and refresh, and we will do the search for that city, the non-existent city, and we should see that that works. Clearly, it's learned from the best motivational speakers. Oh. There we go. I'll kick that one off. And we should watch that run. Now, that's two ways that we can run and build Playwright scripts. There's also code generation that you can run where it'll open a special version of the browser for you, and you'll be able to click through and navigate and generate that code appropriately. There you go. You saw it search for, and it properly didn't find that location and didn't throw an error. Terrific. So I've now extended my tests, and I know that I've got additional features working properly for me. So before I get to showing the code gen, let me show you the last piece of this demo that I think kind of solidifies that we know the application is working properly and those Playwright tests are going to help us. Let me go back up into the app host here, and where'd it go? I don't see it. What? Oh, no, it's over. I'm sorry. My bad. I already have some features built inside of my Weather Hub. I should have done this a different way. Have things being passed in from Aspire, but to simplify things, I'm wiring up an Azure OpenAI endpoint because I want to get the summary and make our weather forecast look a little bit more appropriate for whatever the forecast is. So I put together this prompt. You're a weather assistant. Summarize the following forecast as one of the following conditions: sunny, cloudy, rainy, or snowy. Only those four values are allowed. Be as concise as possible. And then I pass in, here's the weather forecast. At this point, it goes and completes that. And we're going to identify it as one of these values. And I can then update my homepage with an appropriate background image. So let me finish wiring up that feature. Now that I've got Playwright tests that verify everything works here for me, here's my little feature right here that I'll add into the mix. And I don't even have to launch the application, right? Because I can run my tests and verify that everything works. And this says it took 45 seconds last time. I bet you it'll come through a little bit faster than that. Maybe it'll come through in 20 seconds or so, but it's going to go connect to my Azure AI endpoint and do that interaction as it's building and working with the website, doing those exact same tests. So here it goes. Searched for New York. The New York data is hopefully loading. You saw it had a slightly different background there. Looks like it's working. And we'll see as the rest of my tests finish off that I didn't break my application by bringing in a new feature. So now I feel confident that I can go and do those exploratory tests, navigating around my website. And that only took 25 seconds. So I feel good about just how quickly this runs. So I'll do .NET Watch one more time, and we'll be able to poke in there and take a look at exactly how the new feature works. And then we can even do some code gen at that point. John says the options should include goofy, grumpy, and sleepy. Man, no, we don't have the dwarves out here. So there's the website running. I'll click into it and let's go do a search, and we'll search for Tulsa again. Right? Click into there, and there's my forecast. And for some reason, it's saying it's going to be snowy. I don't know why. That feels wrong, but it's giving me a snowy forecast for Tulsa. What?
I can assure you
Um,
that chance is zero.
yeah, right. So let's try Las Vegas. There we go. I don't even have to finish Las Vegas Valley, and nice and yeah, nice and sunny there. Good stuff. So and if we try I don't think Seattle loads up. Seattle and vicinity. There we go. See if we get rain. Uh-oh. So we got an error loading Seattle. No, not going to find Seattle. Um, um, no. Spokane, I know, was in there. There we go. And there we go. So cloudy, and we get a cloudy background. So nice. Just a little bit of AI to make the background a little bit interesting. And I was assured that it works because I had Playwright come through and run all my tests. The Seattle weather station is always rained out. Oh man. So so cool. Nothing to it getting that running. But if I want to navigate around like a quality assurance engineer might do, I can run the code gen tasks directly for my application. So let me open another terminal here and I'll jump into now when you install Playwright, it comes in as a NuGet package, and those tests are they'll have the PowerShell script sitting there next to it. So I'm going to jump into my bin folder, and there is not KS, LS. There we go. And there is inside of here, there is a Playwright PS1. See it right there? We can launch the Playwright script in CodeGen mode for our URL, and we'll be able to start navigating around and generating tests. So I'm going to go to localhost 7274. And we're going to do exactly that. Playwright PowerShell, and we're going to say CodeGen, and we're starting at that location. Tell me I didn't mess that up. I messed that up, of course. Do that one more time, hopefully without the slash. Really? Fine, I'm not giving you a location. Cool. Now I can go to the website. What do you mean? Do I need an HTTPS in front of that? Is that what I'm breaking? There we go. And now you can see it's highlighting various things here, and it's showing me exactly the Playwright commands that I would be executing when I click through to navigate to some of those things. And over here, you can see the code that it would generate for us. And it's already set up, and it's going to generate some C# code for us. So I can immediately see here's a way to get started. Now, I already have these things up here already exist inside of the test harnesses that I have with .NET Aspire. So I can still click into here. I can do a search. This time I'll search for Tulsa, click outside of this, and I'll click on Tulsa and I get that same text being built here. Let me zoom that a little bit because I know that's small. There you go. Now, I could also, right, we could simplify this a little bit. You know what, let's just, right, no. Let's go into state and let's search for Oklahoma. And now I can see all of them here. And let's test that we can page around on this, right? And you see it generating the go to next page statements over here. I can copy these out, and these commands will work, copy and paste right into the rest of my .NET code. So I've got even another way that I can generate tests to make it easier to navigate and get that assurance that my application is working the way that I want. So we've got 3 different ways now that you can generate tests. And with the harness to hook up to .NET Aspire, it's going to make it even easier for you to run your entire application system locally as you're developing. All right. Let me get you some links to the source code. I want to take some questions if you have any here, and we can start wrapping things up. Is that good, Sean? We good for that? I see a nod. I see a thumb. All right, let me head over here to PowerPoint. Let me give you some links. I showed you Playwright. You can get a hold of Playwright at playwright.dev. If you want to learn more about .NET Aspire, head over to .net/aspire. My friend Debbie O'Brien put together this amazing video that shows you how to use the Playwright MCP, how we took that plain language and turned it into Playwright tests. You can find that at bit.ly/playwright-mcp-yt. And finally, the source code for this sample you can find at bit.ly/aspire playwright-demo. Now, and you can find me on all the places: YouTube, Twitch, GitHub, Twitter. I'm not going to call it X. Twitter. I am C# Fritz in all the places. Now, the last thing that I want to show you, that sample code that I was working on to bring together those three infrastructure pieces, it's kind of a pain in the neck to work with. So what I started working on, and I'm hoping to evolve here a little bit, is a library that will make that easier. And I have it out here called called Fritz Aspire Playwright X Unit. And I'll share that link. So this is open source. I'm going to grow this and see how we can make testing and bringing these two pieces together easier, to generate reports, to generate all kinds of things. I didn't show you reports. You can, it'll take snapshots and it'll save reports into the bin folder, and you can navigate that. But for now, these are the couple pieces that I wanted to show you for this evening. Yeah, any last questions? Anything you'd like me to take a look at? I'll bring that slide back up again. So, who should be using .NET Aspire? Asks Jeremy. Everybody. What makes .NET Aspire so good is that .NET Aspire is like air. You don't know you need it until you don't have it. So you want to do performance measurements? .NET Aspire already has it built in. You want to get some extra debug logging in there so you can follow and see what's going on? You want to do a trace and see exactly how things progressed between multiple microservices and your website and how they interacted and the information that went on between them? Aspire has it all built in for you. So these are things that are going to help you to build your applications not just better, but help you discover what's working well, what isn't working well. You get an Aspire and you get an Aspire, and yeah, it's easy to add on to existing systems. It's two projects you bring in and you start defining that topology. Instead of writing your topology with YAML in a Docker Compose file, you get C#. That means you get code completion, you get IntelliSense, you can get a compiler that's validating the way that you wrote things. You can get analyzers that suggest better ways to do things. It's great stuff. Mr. Franklin, how you doing there, sir? What if you're not using containers? So you can actually connect out instead of using a container for Postgres or Redis like I was, you can tell it to connect out to a running service that's somewhere on your network. Hey, add a Redis resource, and it's actually at that location over there, and it'll pass around that information. You might add it as a connection string, and further down the stream, inside your projects, say add a Redis client, and there's where you can find it, and it'll give you all of that information. You just joined the meeting a few minutes ago. Is this available to watch later? Well, let me just recap real quick, and let me go back to the beginning, and we can. There's a rewind button down below, I think. So, do I have any advice for getting started practicing Aspire and Playwright, keeping it digestible, so to speak? We're right at the beginning of this. What I'm actually showing you something that we're tinkering with, we're experimenting with. So this is really where to get started at this point. Aspire, we've got some great videos available that'll teach you how to work with .NET Aspire. There's educational materials all on learn.microsoft.com that you can explore, that'll show you how you can do different integrations with different services. You might call them cloud native services that are available out there to interact and work with those. Bringing the pieces from Playwright in, that's that last piece from that library I showed with the GitHub link. bring that in and you can start to tinker with how these work together. And we're going to be experimenting and growing that and seeing exactly how these pieces fit together here over the next few months. Joshua with a question. When comparing to a tool like Azure Log Analytics, if you already have an established logging environment using something like this, what would be your argument for a migration to Aspire? I got you. So here's the thing. .NET Aspire is primarily a developer tool. It runs here on your workstation. You might hand some stuff over, including that dashboard, and install it for your quality assurance team to take a look and explore around in a staging environment and see how things are behaving, interact with logs and metrics and those types of things. So when you do want to go to production, your production space, you can swap out the information about where .NET Aspire is publishing its telemetry to, right? We showed in that service defaults project that it's publishing open telemetry. You can change out the location that it's sending that information to. So instead of it going to a dashboard, you can have it published to Azure Log Analytics. And we have some sample code on Microsoft Learn that'll show you exactly how to swap that out. And maybe you don't want to use Azure Log Analytics. Maybe you want to use a tool like Datadog or SolarWinds. We've got instructions that'll help you set that up also. And even better, if you want to host your own logs and metrics, you can do that with Prometheus and stand up a Grafana dashboard. We've got some great sample Grafana dashboards that you can use. So you can publish right out to Prometheus, show that Grafana dashboard, so that you have that enterprise grade logging and reporting coming out there. So you have those options as you go to promote forward the things that you've architected with .NET Aspire. You're very welcome, Torin. Thank you so much. Joshua with a comment here: Datadog and SolarWinds, what are these non-Azure branded thingamabobs? So there's a lot of great companies out there that have integrations that have different enterprise solutions out there. So if you're not keen on the Azure solution, you're not keen on a Microsoft solution for that, that's okay. We've got partner organizations that have built tools that work differently, that present and interact with your data in ways that you might be more agreeable to. And that's okay. We want to make sure that all of these tools are supported and you're able to use them where you want to be. I guess we're kind of like, right? Aspire is kind of like your American Express card. It's everywhere you want to be. That's kind of a thing there, right? Sean points out there's also Azure Managed Grafana resources. Yes. So you can host your Grafana dashboard out there and be able to wire up to your data appropriately. Just wait until you see some of the cursed things that Jeremy's been working on with Aspire. Have you been using CSS trickery to change out the dashboard background so it's beans or something like that? That would be cursed. You're not wrong. I would love to see you break some of the security things in the Aspire dashboard, just because it would make your buddy so happy to see that. So we've all been, oh wow, that's a good one. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, friends. I broadcast twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can find me 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. I'm on Twitch and YouTube. You can find me there broadcasting for a couple hours every Tuesday and Thursday, answering questions live, writing code, hosting generally developer talk radio, having a good time, talking about all the cool things that are going on in the tech industry. There is an 8 a.m. Central. Yes. So just Bing for C# Fritz. That's right. Thank you so much, friends. It was great to talk with you, and I'll be around. You can reach out to me in all these locations. I have a Discord server out there also. I'm trying to make that better and more interesting, but it's something. So.